Between 2022, 23, 24, I was developing something called the HD Business Blueprint, and specifically what something I call the sacred geometry of business, or a self-actualized approach to business, which is really about moving and coming from a deep internal sense of self and a really clear sense of your authentic identity and how you energetically show up, how you align and create things in the most truest way for your energy that is sustainable, that allows you to work with people that are correct for you, that allows you to stop following shiny objects and actually stay true to what is actually real and consistent within you. And your human design chart gives, and your gene keys gives you a wealth of knowledge about the core themes that you're going to experience in your life that allows you to make sense of your standout thought leadership. It gives you a really clear idea about the kinds of offers that are actually sustainable for you to deliver. So, you might be bombarded with loads of ideas about how to scale, how to build an offer, how to market. And there are very specific skills that you need for selling and for marketing. Those skills are non negotiable skills. But when you marry that and pair it with living your design and applying design principles to your business, things get really, really magical. So, this isn't just about applying to business. This is about working with founders, entrepreneurs, spiritual seekers, people who know they're here for more and are still actually thinking, why am I here? What am I doing? How do I transform and evolve my consciousness to step into an identity of someone who leads in a sustainable way? How do I stop letting the patterns that I've been conditioned by run my business or run my life or run my career? Things like undercharging, overworking, proving your value. These are the things that are sneaky and show up and actually can be resolved when you really look at how these thematics and conditionings are showing up based on your energetic configuration. Not only having the understanding of it, but actually having the tools, the energetic tools to recalibrate. So I just want to talk briefly about one of the principles in the HD Business Blueprint, which I run as a single masterclass, but also is part of the HD Business Blueprint experience and process of you getting super, super clear on how each of the elements of your design uniquely support you in different aspects of your business. And yeah, okay. So principle 14 is the storyline of your brand and your ideal client. So knowing who your ideal clients are is such an arduous process when you are trying to figure out what's inside the heads of the people that you serve. So yes, there's market research. Yes, there's informal conversations. Some people approach it with, this is what I've experienced, so I'm gonna, I resonate with these types of people and I know the problems and the specific pains that they're experiencing because I've navigated this myself, which is a really great starting point. But human design gives us a little bit more insight. So in this aspect of the work, we know how to identify who your ideal clients are, and we use that information to be able to craft copy and content that resonates. And this really shifted everything for me when I knew specifically who my fractal clients were, because the actual way you show up. So for me, My fractals are one lines. I'm a one line too. So I know that I can show up with my depth. I can show up with my case studies. I know what my clients need. My clients on a cellular level are they're going to resonate when I'm providing depth, when I'm not providing things that are fluffy or um, just happen to be insight, but without the structure underneath it. And there's lots more to this. I'm just going into a brief, I'm touching on it briefly to show you what's possible for you. So, on a life level, applying this and implementing this in a practical way helps you to align with yourself and create flow and to find peace on your own pathway and understand how to flow over force, which is absolutely everything I stand for. So we need to understand something about trajectory, which is the life path and the direction that you are being drawn to towards your incarnation cross. So we have a G center, we have a magnetic monopole, and that magnetic monopole, when we are in alignment with our authentic self, when we are surrendered to the truth of who we are, and we are following our intuition, our internal knowing, our decision making strategy, we are not being taken off our path and continuing to walk in a direction that is not true. When we understand, actually, our human design shows us that we have a very specific trajectory. And actually, you're never going to really be pulled too far away from it. You're always going to be pulled back because there will be obstacles, there will be delays, there will be repeating harsher experiences that bring you more and more back into that alignment of your trajectory. When we look at trajectory, we're looking at 4 key gates. We're looking at our nodal pathway. So we're looking at the north node, the south node on the design, on the personality side, and we're looking at the north node and the south node on the design side. And actually, let me just check my phone quickly to see, because I was expecting. Okay, so this is really what we talk about, which is taking us on the trajectory of our journey and our evolutionary pathway to fulfill our purpose, which is our incarnation cross. And those are the top 4 gates, which in Gene Keys happens to be the activation sequence. So your life work, your evolution, life work is conscious sun, evolution is conscious earth. Radiance is design sun, and your purpose, which is your design earth. So your nodal pathway is always guiding you to fulfill and live out those thematics. So your life path is really about, how do I surrender and work with my unique journey? So what we need to understand is a concept called environment, who you are designed to attune to. Your south nodes are all about the beginning part of your life between 0 and 42, the ages of 0 and 42. And this is the people that you are meeting, you're bumping into, you're experimenting, you're learning. And so, for example, if you've got gate 35, which I do in my north node, I'm meeting and experimenting and learning with people that I'm going to experience transition, and I'm going to have experiences with and transformation. But I also have 45 on my design side. And so I am meeting and learning and exploring what leadership means, which is, it was so fascinating when it just made so much sense to me, because my whole life has been exploring power, exploring the relationship between good leadership, poor leadership, and working very closely with really powerful leaders and mentors, and being in a situation with really, really narcissistic leaders, and learning how to define for myself what do I really consider good leadership to be. And what came out of my journey so far, and now at 42, is that I really defined servant leadership as my leadership preference. And to get there, I had to experience many different forms of leadership. Anyway, this is a really exciting part of the journey. So, we then move into another concept called perspective. And what that means is the people that you are designed to see. To see. So your north nodes are who needs your solutions. And by the time you get to age 42, your Uranus opposition, this is when you're most likely to really start leaning into the line of your geometry. So this is the other thing. People think, oh, I need to know, I need to do, but actually you've got a body of work that you are actually always moving towards, which is why when we do the HD Business Blueprint sessions or the Soul Map sessions, when we're really packaging your genius and getting to the cutting to the core of your brand essence and who you are, what you stand for, and the work that you're really here to bring and what you need to birth right now, we're looking at all of your life experiences. We're looking at what you've been most drawn to. Where are you really disruptive? Where are you here to disrupt? What differentiates you? Because this question comes up a lot, but so many people struggle because they're not bringing the context of their actual human design to it. But once you do, it makes everything so, so much clearer to yourself. So knowing this understands or helps you to understand and make sense of the journey as you grow and continue to evolve. But your perspective evolves out of who you've bumped into throughout your life. So again, my perspective was shaped by the leaders that I experienced. And early in my life, being a projector who's basically a double reflector and only having two centers defined, my spleen and my G center, I always had, earlier in my life, I really gravitated towards very driven, very authoritative, very focused, very strategic leaders because I loved how they led and how they created change. But there was a very dark shadow side to that as well, which was a little bit ruthless and a little bit manipulative and a little bit of do this at all costs. And I began to move away from that because I began to see the human cost of being so driven and so manipulative. Manipulative for good, but there was always also manipulative for bad. And so by moving through those experiences, it shaped, when I was in my conditioning, I tried to work to that level, to work 100-hour weeks, to bring change in a very, very forceful way. Although as time went on and I began to lead a school myself, I began to develop my own um, perspective, shedding some of the things that I didn't agree with and bringing with me the things I did. And what was really important to me was synergy and cooperative alliance, collaboration, empowering people to actually to allow individuals to for us to really identify what our what everybody's unique skills, talents, and abilities were, and how we could develop those, and how we could create really or cultivate teams that felt inspired rather than controlled. And that's when I began to really shape my leadership. So we also begin to look at your profit potential, which are what are the problems that you're here to solve? And we see this where you have a third line theme in the gates. So where you have a gate, where you have an open center and a third line theme, because the third line is always about innovation. It's about experimentation. It's about literally trial and error and approaching life by in an experiential way. So, and you know what's really interesting? I am a third line, so I'm a 1-3. And my approach to teaching and developing pedagogy and developing readers, independent readers, and my classroom culture was always taking a scientific approach. Let's have a hypothesis. Let's investigate. Let's experiment. Let's be curious about this. Let's take a risk. And now I see how much of that was rooted in my actual third line approach to life in general. Um, so, okay, bear with me. So, your profit potential gate, this tells us the gate's potential for attracting money and how we are designed to fulfill our financial needs in ways that we can trust. Because the third line is here to deliver what doesn't work. So through that trial, through that trial and error, you bring great innovation. What doesn't work? What have you discovered in relation to these gates and these thematics in your chart and the thematics of that specific center? So if you have an open will center, you might be somebody who has learned a huge amount about trying to prove your worth. Or if you have an open sacral, you might be somebody who's learned a lot about actually how to work with sacral energy, how to actually create in a sustainable way. Because you're bringing the wisdom of that knowledge. How can you improve it or help others based on your discoveries? So there is another line of thought which I'll go into in depth in a different podcast because this isn't really about the centers. But it's really, really important to understand the difference between definition, which is consistent to you, and why building a business from your center, from your definition, is actually how you can create a sustainable business model. But still creating offers from your open centers and the wisdom doesn't mean that you don't do that. It just means that your business model and how you build your business model is rooted in your definition as opposed to the wisdom that you're creating through your open centers. So it's not that you shouldn't sell from your open centers because it's inconsistent. No, what we're saying is build your structure, how you deliver from your definition, while still being able to create offers that share your wisdom within the structure of your definition. So anyway, so final thing, the centers are really about how you experience the world, how others experience you, and how you naturally lead, work, create, and get paid. So if this excites you and you want to know more or how to book in for a series of sessions to build your HD business blueprint, to clarify your brand, to you're feeling a bit bleh about your current offers, things aren't working, you're overworking, you're feeling misaligned, you're not in alignment, reach out, DM me, let's book in for a chat and talk about how you can actually transform this by building in alignment with your human design.